You were a Fed chair.
Yes.
In Kansas City. So you know all this stuff. You also were a businessman. You ran Godfather's, right?
Yes.
Godfather's Pizza.
Yes.
Very successful in both of those positions. Is this unintentional? Are the things being done by Bernanke and the administration, and now through GM, is this just a bunch of really moronic people, the dumbest group of people ever seen, or do they know what they're doing?
Neil, I apologize. Glenn.
That's all right.
For about the first 12 months of the Obama administration, I hesitated in believing that they could make this many bad decisions collectively. So you can only conclude that there's a certain amount of intent to do some of these things.
This is because this is a charge that I have wrestled with. I think every American has.
Yes.
You don't want to believe that there are people that would intentionally do stuff.
Exactly, but look at this. Look, go back to the guy who wants to slap a gas tax on.
Okay.
If you do that with gasoline being at $3.74 or 75 cents a gallon, $4 is the tipping point.
Mm-hmm.
Analyses have shown, studies have shown, that once you go past $4 a gallon, it goes past the tipping point, which means that the average family has no choice other than to take it out of another pocket to buy gas to go back and forth to work and take the kids back and forth to school. Now, suppose we go past that tipping point, which we could if King Abdullah and the boys decide that they want to reduce, the supply of oil.
Mm-hmm.
Ahmadinejad, he is the one who's trying to get them to reduce it so the price can go up because he doesn't care about the economy in this country. So now, add a tax on top of that. What that does is it puts a downward pressure on the economy. And this anemic economy that we have now, 1.8% in the first quarter, would become even worse. They keep making all of these moves saying that we aren't going to have a double-dip recession. But if cumulatively you add another gas tax, and if at the mercy of OPEC and them deciding how much they want to pull out of chain, we could end up in a double-dip recession.
Now, OPEC, Saudi Arabia actually was the only one apparently saying that maybe we should increase oil production. But I don't know if we disagree on this. I don't think it's oil production that we have to worry about. I mean, we have all the oil, but it's all in the ground.
Exactly.
We don't have our own energy, so we are completely screwed if they want to yank our chain.
Exactly.
But it's really not how much oil is out there alone. A lot of this has to do with the dollar being inflated.
Yes.
Okay, hang on.
Yes.
Let's explain that when we come back. There's several things I want to talk to you about, but one of them is about the Fed. Do you believe the Fed should be audited?
Yes.
Yes?
It's not going to be an issue that I'm going to take the leadership on.
Okay.
I worked on the Fed in the 90s. I don't think they're going to find anything. I would not block auditing the Fed, but it's not an issue that I'm excited about.
You're not a fan of Ben Bernanke's?
No, I'm not a fan of Ben Bernanke's. I had high hopes for Ben Bernanke when he first got the job. I talked to some friends that I still have in the Federal Reserve System, and they had high hopes also.
I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to spend an hour with you sometime just talking about the Fed, because I think the Fed should be ended myself. But the inflation, here's one of the reasons why the Fed should be ended. Now you have Elizabeth Warren, who is now part of the Fed in the Treasury Department. Treasury and the Fed have just become like this. They're really controlling everything, are they not?
And that's the problem. The Fed and the Treasury have become like this. It's called politicization of the Federal Reserve. Here's the source of the inflation. $14 trillion in debt. And when the Treasury cannot sell those notes, the Federal Reserve is buying some of them in order to help to pay the bills. It becomes a vicious cycle. Now, back in the mid-90s, when Alan Greenspan was head of the Fed and I was on the board of the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City, we didn't have that problem. Alan Greenspan never would have thought about trying to prop up the Treasury because the debt was so bad. That is the source.
I heard him this week
yes.
say, I'm surprised that they're doing this. This is a historic opportunity to reduce the debt. And they're just, yes.
Yes, exactly. And so people sometimes, Glenn, want to say, because I was on the board of the Federal Reserve back in the 90s, that they want to hold that against me as
You're
a candidate.
part of the cabal.
I'm part of the cabal. No, I'm not. Go back and look at what we did back then. We did our job back then. We didn't make these sort of mixed decisions that's adding to the problem.
China selling 97% of all of their short-term debt. Is that a problem for us?
That is a problem for us because China is starting to worry that we are not going to make it.
Are we?
If we don't change the leadership in the White House and change control of Congress, there is a chance that we may not make it.
Can I tell you something? That doesn't mean much to me. If we don't change, we get changed. It seems like we play musical chairs. They say one thing when they're out, and then they do the exact opposite. Does it really make a difference?
It can make a difference, Glenn.
How do we know? How do we know who to vote for?
You won't know for sure. You're going to have to look at someone different. You're going to have to look. It all ultimately comes down to every time, who do you think you can trust? That's what it comes down to. You will never be 100% sure. President Obama convinced a lot of people that he had America's best interest at heart. And if you look at the actions and the decisions that he has made, I am not convinced that he's had America's best interest at heart. And it hurts me to say that because of my respect for the office of the president.
You hate him because he's black? Is that what it is?
Is he black? Gee, I'm glad you told me that.
Back in just a minute. Herman Cain is a 2012 Republican presidential candidate, and he has said just, I think it was on Monday, that you won't accept a bill. You won't accept a bill that's over 3 pages long. Ever. You made a promise.
Glenn, that's an exaggeration. If that's all the media has to do is to find a statement, it was an exaggeration. Now, what I said after that, they didn't print in the story. I was trying to drive home the point. I would only sign clean bills, bills with no earmarks, and bills that the American public can read and understand. That was the point of making the 3-page long. It was not an absolute promise. They will only be 3 pages long.
Why are you running for president? I mean, who really wants this? Who wants this
I
job?
feel compelled to run, Glenn. Started in 1999 when my first grandchild was born. And so help me, the first time I looked in that little baby's face, the first thought that went through my mind, and I did not know what it meant at the time, what do I do to make this a better world and a better nation? Didn't know what that meant. I ran for the United States Senate. Didn't win. I said, okay, God,
that ain't it.
That ain't it. I didn't win. Then I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer in 2006.
Wow.
2006 diagnosed with stage 4 cancer with on a 30% chance of living. That was 5 years ago. 5 years ago, because God said not yet. So I kept praying. And it finally led me to the decision.
Clean bill of health now?
Clean bill of health. I was finally led with a lot of prayer, a lot of soul searching, that this is what I'm supposed to do, is run for president of the United States of America, because it's not about us. It's about them and those little faces, like the 3 that I have.
Herman, I have to tell you, I think you're real.
Thank you, sir.
And I appreciate that. And I know your slogan is, let's get real.
Yes, sir.
But we thought, Tiffany and my producer thought it should be, yes, we Cain. Yes,
that'll work.
Yes, we Cain. Thank you very much, sir.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Back in just a minute.